On Overdrive today, we find out what makes the Honda Elevate a great new proposition in the super packed SUV space, and we find out what the Odyssey Hawk electric scooter has to offer. Hello and welcome to Overdrive. I am Soini Dutt. Honda has finally entered the crowded SUV space with the Elevate. They might be a little late to the party, but they are ready to take on the market giants like Hyundai Creta, Kia Seltos, Skoda Kushaq, the Volkswagen Taigun and even the MG Astor. Now, Bird has driven the manual variant for starters of the Elevate. Let's check it out.
This is the new Honda Elevate, and it's probably the finest SUV I have driven in this segment. Let me tell you why. The Elevate gets the 1.5 litre dual overhead cam IV Tech engine. This is a naturally aspirated engine. Makes peak power of about 121 PS, coming in at about 6,600 RPM, with peak torque at about 145 Newton meters. This is like all traditional Honda engines. Peak power and peak torque come in at very high revs, and you would feel that you need to push the throttle down really hard to get this car moving. But Honda's engineers have done a fairly good job in two ways. One, they've refined the torque characteristics. So while peak torque comes in at 4,300 RPM, the torque curve is relatively flat, and you're in the meatiest part of the power band as early as about 2,200 RPM. So you don't feel the engine working too hard to get momentum going. The other aspect is that they have kept the weight of the Elevate fairly low. Curb weight for the manual transmission version is capped at about 1.2 tons, that's 1,200 kilos. This is significantly lighter, almost about 100 to 150 kilos lighter than, say, its competitor, the Hyundai Creta. I'm in fifth gear, pottering about. I'm going to drop it down to about 45 kilometers an hour, 50 kilometers an hour. And while you can sense a little bit of vibration, the engine builds up momentum quite quickly. Having said that, if you had to overtake somebody in a rush, then you will have to drop down to third, maybe even second gear to make for those quick overtakes. So for most highway conditions, even in a few urban conditions, third and fourth gear should be more than sufficient to drive this car around. This 1.5 VTEC is an absolutely brilliant engine. I'm doing about 1,000 RPM, about 40 kilometers an hour. And well, yes, there are a few vibrations. You can even hear them now. Those vibrations largely come from the bodywork, from the body panels. The engine just picks up. There's no jerkiness. It doesn't feel like it's struggling. It's just very comfortably. I'm now doing about 800 RPM. I'm under 30 kilometers an hour, and it's just picking itself up gracefully, comfortably. None of those jerkiness that you would notice in most other vehicles that go down as low. And this is a petrol. Over long distances, even in urban conditions, I think this will be an absolutely brilliant SUV to drive. The one aspect about the Elevate that I absolutely adore is this interior. This is old school styling and design. This is old money. There's a sense of richness to this cabin that you will not find in any other SUV, in any other sedan at this price point. With that brown leather accent on the upholstery, and that's liberally spread across this cabin, whether it's on the seats, on the dashboard, on the door panels, the wood textures, the wood inlays on the dashboard, all of this, well, it brings to mind generations old Accords. This is such a fantastic cabin. Yes, it's got modern elements. You're going to see that large infotainment screen, you're going to see a contemporary steering wheel. And even the steering wheel, it reminds you of a driver's steering wheel. Nice and grippy, compact, small, not large, chunky enough. There is a wonderful feeling to this cabin. Even the seats, they're fantastically supportive. And over long journeys, the Elevate, I believe, will be a very comfortable SUV to drive, tireless, no matter how long you stay on the road. The one area that the Elevate is lacking in is the level of features that you get. And for most consumers out there, this is fairly important, but the Elevate does not have the same level of feature lists like most of its competitors do. Some big misses in this: panoramic sunroof, ventilated seats, and well, branded sound systems. It does have a PM 2.5 filter, but that has been integrated into the climate control system, and you won't see an external unit. So what's the space like in the rear seat? Well, as you can see, it's adequate. That driver's seat is in my position, and there's plenty of knee room. There's a lot of headroom also, and that's because they've scooped out the roof over here, and that gives you a lot of headroom as well. Shoulder space. Now this is a fairly wide SUV, but shoulder space for 3 occupants will be a little tight. What I do like is that it's got a low flow, so the transmission tunnel is very low, and there's enough space if you have to seat a third person on this bench. Though those vents positioned low, you'll really have to adjust those. Otherwise, this is ideal space for 4 occupants. A fifth can be a bit of a squeeze, but they should be able to manage. What Honda has also done is, both for the driver, passenger and the rear bench, they've worked on enhancing the lower back support. So over long journeys, you won't feel exhausted, your lower back will not have a lot of problems, and it feels very supportive, it feels very comfortable.
The Honda Elevate is also being offered with an automatic gearbox and ADAS functions. More on that after this very short break. Welcome back. You're watching Overdrive. Now, while I do believe that styling is a personal preference, the Elevate brings in a contemporary design along with refined drivability and a luxurious package. All of that with the tried and tested Honda engineering is something that customers are eagerly waiting for. Now, we have also driven the automatic variant of this car, but we'll tell you all about it.
The Elevate also gets level 2 ADAS. But for me, well, I'd switch almost everything off. Indian driving conditions, well, ADAS would kick in almost every time. The only smart execution is that Honda has put limits onto various features for ADAS, and those limits are governed by speed. So you've got collision mitigation, you've got lane keep assist, and various other safety operations within ADAS, but all of them work at different speeds. So the conditions where it has to meet are quite diverse. So you can still drive the Elevate comfortably without having those safety features intruding into your driving experience. Apart from level 2 ADAS, the advanced driver assistance systems, Honda is also offering a very large range of safety features on board, which amongst many others includes 6 airbags, traction control, ABS, hill climb assist, and whatnot. However, at this point in time, what we aren't aware of is how will each of the variants be spec'd, and will those 6 airbags be offered as standard fitment across all variants, or only be available on the top end variant. Another aspect that Honda has worked extensively on is to balance out ride comfort and the dynamic abilities of the Elevate. The Elevate uses a McPherson setup at the front and a torsion beam at the rear, but there's also additional strengthening in the chassis to control dynamic forces. What this has done is kept a very tight grip on body roll. Even pitch has been minimized extensively. The steering feel, well, not that impressive. It is fairly precise, but it also feels a little wooden. Nonetheless, you've got good control over the vehicle, and overall, drivability in this SUV is comfortable. On the braking front, and I've been hearing a lot of this, there have been remarks about Honda's setup, which uses a disc brake at the front and a drum at the rear. But this system is also equipped with ABS and a few other technologies to enhance braking. For all situations and all purposes, this is more than adequate. We finished driving the 6-speed manual, and now we've got the CVT. We are climbing up a particularly steep section of Udaipur, leading up to this place called Raita Hills. And out here, it's quite apparent the noise from that CVT. Well, it's quite loud, doesn't feel very refined. There is a bit of a struggle, but if you were in urban conditions and flat neutral ground, And the CVT is a lot better. It is quiet, effortless, and should be the more popular choice. Certainly the choice you should go in for if you're the kind that keeps driving in the city. It is the more efficient transmission of the two. Honda claims fuel efficiency figures for the CVT stand at 16.9 kilometers per litre as against 15.3 for the manual transmission. That's about 1.6 kilometers per litre better, which is quite unbelievable. On the whole though, I do like the manual better. The refinement and the diversity, the depth of its performance is immense. Keeping it in 6th gear, 800 RPM, and it still is able to pick up from 35 kilometers an hour. I mean, that manual transmission is just marvelous. The CVT out here is the compromise. This CVT has a step down function, so you get a sport mode and you get paddle shifters behind the steering wheel. Now, the paddle shifters certainly make driving this automatic transmission convenient. One aspect of the styling that I haven't really spoken much about is that enormous front end, that very vertical face, and the high sill line on the hood. Well, you can see those two pontoon-like edges for the Elevate. Now, they add a lot of character to the design and the style of this SUV. But they're also a fairly intrusive element in the windscreen. In fact, this almost reminds me of driving the GT400, Lamborghini's classic car, where there's the housing for the headlamps. Well, those pods were in your vision. Similarly, with the Elevate, you've got the same elements and they're there, right in front of you. So overall then, the Honda Elevate is a very promising SUV. Like I said earlier, probably one of the finest in this segment. Now it all boils down to where Honda prices the Elevate. My expectation is somewhere around the 1050, 1080 would be a good starting price for the manual, but it needs to be under 15 lakhs or just about there for the top end spec. And that's also because while Honda has focused a lot on the engineering, where features are concerned, which most consumers want today, well, there are a few shortcomings. There are some elements which aren't available, a few shortcuts that Honda has taken. And I believe that would all be in the effort to make this an affordable SUV, to undercut the competition and ensure the volumes start coming in for the Elevate. It is a fantastic SUV to drive. Efficiency, absolutely brilliant. And Honda can deliver on that count every time. The performance, well, it's not bad. But then for a 1.5 litre naturally aspirated engine with just about 121 PS of peak power, well, I really wouldn't complain. A strong advantage in its favor is of course its drivability, irrespective of whether you're in the manual or with the CVT. Refinement is of a very high order, and you can comfortably drive this SUV in any condition, anywhere. The manual transmission, in fact, is quite an impressive gearbox. So overall then, Honda certainly has a winner. But we'll know soon enough just how big a winner that is come September, when the Elevate goes on sale in the Indian market.
Bookings for the Honda Elevate have begun and the price announcement will be made in September. We will get you all the details from the launch floor then as well. We'll take a very quick break here on the show, but coming up on the other side, we tell you all about the Odyssey Hawk electric scooter.